Hello everyone, it's Selena from Treat Petite. In this video I'm going to show you how I make my royal icing. I'll also do a quick overview of icing consistency to give you a better idea of the difference in piping and flooding consistencies. The complete recipe is available on my website at treatpetite.com. This icing recipe is perfect for decorated cookies. The recipe I'm using here uses a meringue powder. There's a link in the description box below where you can buy this. You can also find it at craft stores like Michael's, Hobby Lobby, or Joann's. If you don't have a meringue powder, you can also use raw egg whites. You can use pasteurized eggs if you're concerned about the safety of raw eggs. The egg white recipe is also available on my website, link in the description box below. To start, you will need 2 pounds of confectioner sugar, 6 tablespoons of meringue powder, 2/3 cup of water, and 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. You will need a whisk, a mixer, and a container that can be sealed airtight. Add your meringue powder to the confectioner sugar and mix together with the whisk. Mix well to evenly distribute the meringue powder and break up any lumps in the sugar. Next, you'll add your water and vanilla extract. I'm going to pause here for a second and tell you about a secret, not so secret ingredient. Secret because most royal icing recipes do not include this, not so secret because most cookie decorators have already figured this out. If you reduce your water by 2 tablespoons and replace that with 2 tablespoons of light corn syrup, you will end up with an even better icing. The corn syrup makes the icing fluffier, more marshmallowy, and when it is dried, it will have a slightly softer bite. I use corn syrup in my icing if I have it available. It's certainly not necessary, but I would recommend using it if you have it. When I filmed this, I was out of corn syrup, so I just left it out of this batch. Back to the recipe. Start mixing your icing with your mixer. You don't need a fancy mixer. In fact, the one you see in this video is about 15 years old, and it did die after this video. Rest in peace. Mix for several minutes until you start achieving a firm peak. A soft peak will melt back into itself. A stiff peak will hold a sharp point, but it will be too stiff. Your goal is a firm peak that will hold its shape but have a softer, more rounded point. This is the perfect texture. You can pipe designs with this texture. It's soft but firm and holds its shape well. Now transfer your icing to a bowl with an airtight lid. Stored in the refrigerator, your icing will last up to a month. It may need to be remixed after a few days because the water will start to separate. Just mix it back together before use and you're ready to go. This icing straight from the mixer is a perfect piping consistency. It will hold its shape, and when piped it will not smooth out. For piping, you can use a piping bag or a plastic sandwich bag. I'm partial to disposable tipless bags. There's a link in the description box below if you want to order these. You can also use a regular piping bag with a tip. Transfer a small amount of icing to your bag. Tie up the bag or seal with a rubber band, and then cut off the tip to your desired size. Piping consistency is perfect for crisp lines, textured borders, and lettering. When piped, it holds its shape and doesn't flatten out. You can thin your icing out to achieve different consistencies. Add a tiny amount of water at a time. Too much water and your icing will be runny and unusable. Add a little water and mix together. Then add more until you reach the consistency you're going for. Cookie decorators talk about icing in seconds, 10 second, 15 second, 20 second, etc. This refers to the time it takes for the icing to settle. Draw a line through your icing and count the seconds it takes for the top to smooth back out. Here I'm making 10-second icing. It takes 10 seconds for the line to disappear. 10 seconds is good for flooding. Flood icing will smooth out after it's piped onto the cookie. You can flood with icing as stiff as 20 seconds, but a good rule of thumb is the larger the area to flood, the thinner the icing needs to be. So if you're flooding a small area, use a thicker icing. This will also help keep those small areas from caving in or getting craters as it dries. Some cookie decorators use a 5-second icing to flood. I don't usually use an icing this thin because it's really easy to lose control of. Also, an icing this thin will be more prone to holding a lot of bubbles. I usually flood with a 10 or 15 second icing. To flood your cookie, you can pipe a border with your piping consistency first and then fill in with your flood consistency. This will leave a crisp line around the edge of the icing which will remain visible after piping. If you outline and flood with the same consistency, that line will disappear. I use both methods depending on what look I'm going for. You can use a toothpick or a tool like I'm using here to evenly distribute the icing. This is a scribe tool and there's a link in the description box below. I hope you find this video useful. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment below. And please subscribe for more cookie videos.